Hello?
Good afternoon, Senator.
Yeah. You're doing good. I can hear you.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us today. Let's get into some of the questions right away. First of all, the CARES Act, people are going to start seeing, I guess, those checks headed their way. What has been some of the feedback you've been getting from the public out there as far as this act? Do they think it's going to be enough? Is there going to be more that needs to be done as far as direct payments to Americans? And where do we go from here on that one?
Well, let me start with where anybody can go for more information. Go to my website, mcconnell.senate.gov, and we created a portal called Coronavirus Response. Now, obviously, the $2.2 trillion bill, which was basically written in my office about 10 days ago, is, believe it or not going to be enough. For example, the paycheck protection portion of the bill is already in need of more money, and we're hoping to pass an additional $250 billion tomorrow, because this is the money that goes out to small businesses to guarantee that their employees still get paid, even if their business is shut down. There are other parts of the bill that we passed for hospitals, for state and local governments, all of which may, over a period of time, receive more money as well. And of course, the goal, as everyone knows, is to try to get us through this period until we can get on top of this pandemic and begin to get back to normal and bring our economy back to life. It's a most unusual experience. You know, I remember the aftermath of 9/11 and the aftermath of the financial crisis, each of them about a decade ago on the financial crisis, 2 decades ago on 9/11. To get out of this, every single American needs to follow the directions of Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx. Social distancing and, in the short term, staying at home are absolutely the key to this spread coming to an end and us moving on past it. And then ultimately, we're going to have a successful treatment and a vaccine. And the pharmaceutical industry, the National Institutes of Health, the CDC, they're all working overtime to develop both of those much more quickly than in normal times.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the $250 billion that could be voted on, I guess, as early as tomorrow. And we've been focusing a lot of our stories around here on small businesses. Is that $250 billion going to be enough? What have you been hearing from small businesses? What are their main concerns, and where do they need help the most?
Well, they all want to pay their employees, and now they don't have any business. So that's why it's been very popular. It's been running for about a week. There are a few snags, but a lot of money has already gone out the door. And any small business can go to their typical lender, their local lender that they've always worked with, their local community bank, and begin the process of trying to qualify.
What about just the nation's overall, in general, response to the COVID-19 situation? Sort of rate that for me. Were we on top of things? Were we a little slow to react and getting back into where we need to be? Just in general, this country, how have we done as far as reacting to this overall crisis?
Well, I think the overall reaction has been quite good. The national administration, the governors, but in the end, as I said a few minutes ago, the key to stopping this pandemic is for all of us to do what we're asked to do, which is stay at home and maintain social distancing when we're out. And so we're all participating here in one way or another in getting through this crisis. I've been impressed with the teamwork at all levels of government without concern to party label. I think everybody's been putting partisanship aside and working together. I, for example, have had numerous calls with Governor Beshear He mentioned to me, for example, a shortage of PPE and testing. I called the vice president about it this morning. We're hoping that will produce results for Kentucky, and that's going on all across the country.
Sort of leads me into my next question, specifically Kentucky, and I know you said you talked with Governor Beshear. Is there anything unique about the way this has affected Kentucky, or is this sort of a non-discriminatory type of virus?
Yeah, I don't think the pandemic discriminates, one part of the country or another. Clearly, the heavily populated areas, not surprisingly, we have a whole lot of people jammed together, like in New York, seem to have been hit harder. But it doesn't mean it won't go everywhere if we don't all do what we're supposed to do, which comes back to the contribution that each of us can make during this period, which is to stay at home, and if we have to go out, maintain proper distancing, because it'll come everywhere if we don't all practice the behavior that have been recommended by people like Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, who absolutely know what they're talking about.
Okay. What about the hospitals themselves? We started to touch on this a minute ago and hit more on the small business, but the hospitals themselves, they're saying they're needing more help, they're needing more ventilators, they are needing more test kits. Go through that process with me a little bit here. What does the federal government need to do to get those things in the proper hands sooner as opposed to later, and how has the federal government done in that aspect of this?
Yeah, we authorized over $100 billion for hospitals. And that money is not all arrived yet, but it's on the way. And we may do more, depending upon in a few weeks from now what it looks like with regard to relief for the hospitals. And that's reminds me to we all should be grateful for the healthcare workers, the heroes of this, the people on the front lines who are rushing into these hospitals to deal with these sick people and taking great risks with their own health. It's reminiscent of the firefighters going into the burning buildings in 9/11. They're rushing toward the problem, not away from it.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's pretty much most questions I have. Is there anything else you wanted to add in that I haven't asked you yet?
No, it was all good. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Senator. We appreciate it. Thank you, Senator.